our sump pump at 6 in the morning was running and running and running and running. So I got up and I went outside. And outside on the road were 2 police cars sitting. The reason they were there was because the neighbor down the block had gotten up with his dog earlier in the morning, and the road was covered with mud, stones, and water. Our whole road. Plus it went down where, oh, I'm sorry, you gave Donna Peter, West 167, North 105, for bridle path.
Right.
We're in Old Farm subdivision. And it went down to Old Farm Road and around the corners there. It was nothing but mud, water, and stones. Our yard has a fire hydrant in front. The main broke under the road there. And of course, with the fire hydrant there, that was easiest place for this water to escape. So it came rushing out on the side of the fire hydrant and filled our whole yard. Our house faces west, and the pump is on the southwest corner of our yard. That yard got soaked. Our walls in the basement on the south side and on the west side all cracked. In fact, above the sump pump, which is in the corner in the southwest, you can look outside. Now this happened due to the water main breaking out in the road. And of least resistance, it came up. You know, it didn't come through the pump, through the fire hydrant. It came alongside the fire hydrant. And this water was just squirting up. And this was from 6 in the morning. The road was already covered with water and mud and stones. At 10 in the morning, it was still running. This was a Saturday morning. And consequently, by the time the village got their people there, then once the people got there, they had a difficult time finding where to shut it off. Because all this mud and stones and everything else went down where they had to shut it off. So our yard was completely soaked, and it ruined the west side of our house and the south side of our house, the wall.
I agree.
And now, I got a letter the other day from their insurance company. Please be advised that we recommend that the Village of Germantown disallow your claim. The basis of the denial is that our investigation has found no negligence on the Village of Germantown. Therefore, statewide services will be unable to pay for your damages. Whose fault is it? It's not my fault. And we got people in to try to give us, you know, what it would cost to repair. They would not give us a written one without having a structural engineer come in and see our basement. We paid $500 for that structural engineer to come in. And he was there, I think, April 9th. And consequently, I got it, you know, we have to get it back now to these people so we can get an estimate. I had a call from one of them, and he's estimating it between $15,000 and $20,000. It'll be under $20,000, but it'll be at least $15,000 to do that basement. The walls. They're sticking out, some of the bricks, that much. I have a report here, and I'm going to leave it here with you, from the structural engineer. It is reported that the subject walls are not cracked prior to the occurrence of the flooding caused by the ruptured water main. Based upon this report and the conditions observed, I conclude that the flooding caused by the ruptured water main resulted in the occurrence of excessive pressure against the foundation walls and caused the cracking and displacement of the walls. And then he goes into detail, and I'm going to leave this with the village to go through. This is from the structural engineer. And I have talked to, I waited for the village insurance company to call me, and they didn't call me for weeks. So I called them. And then, well, we're investigating, you know, and I almost fell off my chair. To me, it was so obvious that the city was responsible, but he didn't. And then he had somebody from Brown Deer that came in from Rural Mutual, and he took some pictures, and apparently he sent those to Madison, and after that is when we got the denial that they, for whatever reason, didn't feel it was their fault. I don't know what you think. If you have your pictures there, they aren't real clear. I have pictures that show it better than what, you know, they're clear. My pictures are clearer than what those copies are. And then I have pictures also of the basement wall. But I feel that the village is responsible. Do any of you have any?
Board questions? Trustee Zabel.
Did you take this issue up with your insurance company?
Yes, I did. This happened on Saturday, and our insurance company was there on Monday.
Okay.
And they denied it.
And they denied it? Because of what reason?
I can go.
Obviously, they felt somebody else.
But as you know, a lot of that, because it was
somebody else's fault, just like ours. Somebody else's fault.
The water was up next to their house.
Yeah, I can see by the pictures, and I understand. I mean, this isn't the first time this has happened in Germantown. It's happened to other areas.
Okay, we have a QG from Sheboygan. Our investigation determined.
Please.
Our investigation determined the cause of the damage was water that escaped from the fire hydrant on your property. The excessive amount of water discharged from the fire hydrant resulted in flooding of your yard. As a result of the flooding, water entered the basement through your window well and foundation wall. We had very little water in. If you notice, if you look at the pictures,
I don't see a lot of water there.
It was the pressure from the outside that caused the problem. Unfortunately, no coverage exists for this claim. Specifically, your policy excludes coverage under the following section of your policy. Exclusions. Number 2, we do not insure for loss to property described in parts A and B caused directly or indirectly by any of the following. Such loss is excluded regardless of any other cause or event contributing concurrently or in sequence to the loss. Okay, water. This means flood, surface water, waves, including tidal wave,
Tsunami.
tides, tidal water, overflow of any body of water, or spray from any of these, all weather or not driven by wind, including storm surge. So
That's not bad.
I know what they're saying is usually Mother Nature's flood. I don't consider a hydrant break or a water main break a flood by Mother Nature. But your insurance company, here's what usually happens. What our insurance company did is they simply came out there and said that we have taken care of our mains. We have no negligence as far as the village is concerned on the leak occurring. It happened. Now, usually what occurs is that your insurance company or you will take one or the other to court. What this does is starts the proceedings in which to go to court. Usually if you have a car accident or you have something like that, we have two insurance companies. One insurance company will cover the cost, then go back after the other insurance company. Your insurance company is calling this a flood because of something that occurred by Mother Nature, which is not the case.
And it happened, it was
It did happen in our right-of-way.
Germantown's
But not through negligence.
water main.
But
Not through negligence.
Right, our
That's what
insurance company says it's not through negligence. It's not saying it's because water didn't come from our main. I mean, that's obvious, but they're saying it's not based on negligence of the village. That's their first statement. They have to say that as part of, and I'm going to drop that in your lap.
Got it was because we had the fire hydrant there, which had the least resistance when the water main broke. That's where the water came out.
Well, what our water utility guy in our report seemed to say is that the lead feeding the hydrant is what broke.
Jim?
That's correct. It was water leak past the gasket, the ceiling gasket, where the hydrant was bolted to it, cut a hole in the hydrant lead, caused in that stream cut away the bedding material, the hydrant dropped, and it put a crack in the full length of the pipe.
Yeah, so the leak was actually in that, the pipe that feeds the hydrant. That's what failed. And that's where the leak was. So when it blew up right around the hydrant.
And they took 2 truckloads of stone away from the top of from the road there. And right now, our front of our house looks like a crime scene. It's got all the yellow tape around, a big hole, and a third of the roadway is
Gone.
gone.
Yeah. I guess I'd ask legal options.
What's just going through the process, can you explain the process of what the insurance company is doing in their statement and what normally is the process beyond that?
Sure. What the insurance company looks at is...
Meaning our insurance company first.
Correct, our insurance company. What our insurance company will look at is whether or not there is any liability for which we're responsible for. And when I say liability, that's keeping in mind all of the various factors that play into whether or not government has liability for something, governmental immunity considerations, those types of things. And with those in mind, generally where there would be liability by case law, by governmental immunity, would be for things that the village intentionally does. So the village goes out and intentionally knocks off the fire hydrant to flood the lawn or something like that. Generally where there is regular maintenance, things that haven't been done, you will get a finding, just like we did in this case, that there was no negligence on the part of the village that would subject them to any liability, at least in their opinion. Options that you would have at this point would be to deny that claim as recommended by the insurance company. The claimant, Ms. Peter, in this case, would have the opportunity then to commence litigation against the village, seeking recovery of that. That litigation would be turned over to the insurance company, and they'd provide the defense on that in terms of what happens, and ultimately make some determination as to whether or not they'd settle the case or take it to trial or whatever they decide to do. The other option would be that the village could choose to ignore that recommendation and pay the claim, as it were. My personal opinion is it's never a good idea to go against what the insurance company says in the first place, because they're generally the ones that hold the dollars, as opposed to trying to find somewhere in our budget to make payments to all the claimants that come to us and say, hey, we've got claims that we have against the village. In addition, in this particular case, it seems to make some sense, quite honestly. There's no evidence that the main, in this case, was not kept up. Flushing was done appropriately and all of those types of things. And so there just doesn't appear to be any negligence on the part of the village. And unfortunately, sometimes accidents just happen. And that appears to be what this is in this case.
I still think this should be allowed.
What we normally would do is go with the insurance company's recommendation to start the process. Correct. I'm surprised, based off of your comment from your insurance company, that they're refusing it based on an act of God. This is not an act of God. This is not a weather-related flooding. A lot of people don't have flood insurance. They're basing their denial on you not having a flood insurance rider. This isn't flood insurance based on too much rain or the snow melting too quickly or any of that type of a flooding. This is a flooding based on an event that occurred because a water main broke. That's different to me. That doesn't fall under that type of a situation. Your insurance company's first, like ours is to say, not us, find somebody else. Our insurance company says, based on how we maintain our equipment and how the village goes about its maintenance of its water system, we're not negligent here, so we shouldn't pay. Your insurance company says we're not paying because you don't have flood insurance. Well, you don't have flood insurance based on what?
Also, you have to realize, when I got up at 6 o'clock, that water had been running for a long, long time. Then, it wasn't until after 10 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, the cops were already out there. But it took a long time for the city people to come because it was a Saturday.
Ma'am, I think that, were you the person that contacted me that morning at about 9:30? Did you call me that morning?
What?
Dean Walter? Someone had called me that morning in regards to a flood on Bridle Path from a hydrant, which then I contacted Dave, instantly contacted Dave, and this was at about 9:30, who then instantly contacted Jim. Now, I don't know if that's the first call we got in regards to this flooding, because I don't know, and it's not a case that is riding on this. I know that in the reaction of when I knew about it, Dave knew about it, then Jim knew about it. So our reaction was as quick as we're informed. And that's usually how things happen. And all I'm saying is that water could have ran for 2 hours, and if nobody called the village, meaning the village department or anybody within the water system or the village administrator, it could have ran for 4 hours, it could have ran for 6 hours, because we just don't know that there's a crack or a break until somebody lets us know that.
The only one that I talked to, I
Police were there.
reviewed
I don't know about
the
that.
following day, because Timothy Zimmerman, superintendent of wastewater utility, who came in the house and took pictures.
Okay, on what
And
day?
that was on either, I think it was that Saturday, but it might have been on Sunday. I think it was Saturday, though.
Okay,
And he was the one that told me to put a claim in with the city.
okay. Which would be a normal process.
Right. I've talked to, I know Melvin Ebert, I think Don Ludwig. I called Joel at the insurance in Madison. That was after I waited a few weeks. I never heard from the insurance company for Germantown. You know, it would surprise me, because I had put in a claim right away.
We don't have control of their callback. We're just a customer.
Okay.
She was in multiple contacts with me, and I was in contact with the insurance as well throughout that entire time.
So,
Board? Additional questions? Comments? Direction?
the other thing I think it would be, you know, by the time you start paying attorneys and all that sort of stuff, village to take care of it.
This is where I think it's funny, because usually once it gets turned over to your insurance company, and your insurance company takes it as a claim, but they're refusing because it's a man-made occurrence, or a Mother Nature's occurrence, which I think I'd go back to them, because usually once your insurance company decides to take it on, they usually have all of the deals to go after our insurance company, and usually that's where the court cases come from.
Mr. President?
Yes.
If you remember back, I think maybe 3-4 years ago, we had a very similar incident in, Lake Park. And unfortunately, I don't think the board has any recourse but to deny this. I agree with the attorney. You can't go against your insurance company, because you'd be on the hook for everything. And not only that, there could be liability that we don't even see. But I also agree with Trustee Zabel. Her insurance company should be paying for this, and then they're going to subrogate against our insurance company. I mean, that's the way this thing works. And if you remember, we've had these in the past years, and we've always denied them. But again, like Trustee Zabel said, and he's exactly correct, the homeowner's insurance policy will cover this, and then they'll go after the League of Wisconsin Mutual Insurance Company. That's the way it's supposed to work.
So in other words, we got to get an attorney.
You need to go to your insurance company because, like President Walder said, what you read to us in your insurance policy doesn't state that they shouldn't be paying for it. This is not an act of nature. So that's the way it should work. Your insurance company should be paying for this, and then they'll go after our insurance company.
If they feel it. Ma'am, I need you to come up front. I'm more than welcome
This is,
to.
this is from the structural engineer.
We could take a copy of that, sure. Ma'am, do you have a question that
Basically
you?
on the front is where they explain the different things.
Do you have a copy of this yourself, or would you like us to make a copy of
I
this?
got it.
You have a copy.
I think I read that to you where it was reported that the walls were not cracked prior to the occurrence of the flooding caused by the...
Right, he is stating of the reason of the cracked walls, which is not from flooding from rain or any type of flooding from an overflow of a river, a lake, a tidal wave, or a tsunami. It's from a water main break, which is different. Sir, do you have a question or a comment in regards to this item? Are you related?
He's our next door neighbor.
Okay.
Who took the pictures.
Okay. I do need you, when you do come forward, just to state your name. Oh, you have a slip filled out. Very nice.
Thank you.
My name's Tim Montag, W167 and 10454 Bridle Path, one house to the south. Similar thing happened to me. The insurance company's not going to cover it. I was told that just hang in there, once your house collapses, then we'll cover it. Well, I didn't want that to happen, so it came out of my pocket. It happened early in the morning at like 6 a.m. It was already flooded. I don't know how many hours, and it may not be negligence that, you know, it's not your fault, act of God, weather, whatever it was. You should have turned the water off. 4.5 hours go by. First, the police are out there blocking it off. A couple hours later, the village gets there to set up the barricades. Now the police can leave. A couple guys came and kicked some dirt around, and that was it. They left. I sat there looking out my window for the next 4 hours, and it was just like Jed Clampett shot an oil well. It was just blasting out of there for 4 hours. And the village workers, they tried to turn something off. They said, we have old maps. We don't know how to turn this off. That sounds negligent to me. Now, it's maybe not your fault that it broke, but somebody should have turned that water off. I understand you probably shouldn't go against your own insurance company recommendations, but I think there's a little bit of negligence there. I think that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Terry?
I guess I've got a question based on what this gentleman just said. No, that's okay. I have a question for us. I mean, the reality is, if the water did continue to spray out of this fire hydrant area to that degree for 4 hours, in my mind, it sounds kind of negligent too that we didn't get it shut off. I mean, tell me we weren't. Can we resubmit this? Was that part of what you submitted? What you told our insurance company? Because, I mean, the fact that the water poured out for 4 hours when, okay, granted, we have, what, about a 35 square mile area here, you think somebody could have kind of...
They actually noticed the water pressure dropping.
Yes, I was told after a while that they had noticed that the water tower was losing water. I was told, I forget who was the one that told me that, but they were aware that the water tower was losing water, but they probably didn't know where it was losing.
But that's the best. Did you guys call right away, like in the first hour? Okay.
So the neighbor down the
I was thinking negligence.
And that, by that time, you probably had
Yeah.
I can't let this discussion like this happen. I can't.
If I can speak to that, I filed the claim, and I was in contact with the insurance adjuster and the one who investigated, and we did discuss that. He contacted Jim and Dan Ludwig from the DPW to get their records for what had occurred and the timing of the calls. They were well aware of the timing of the calls and the timing that it took to locate the shutoff and to get it shut off, and he felt that was within reasonable time, that they attempted everything they could. They got their calls, they called in people, because it was a Saturday, it took time to get in, and it took time to locate the shutoffs, and he felt that was within proper time, that did not cause negligence on our part. I understand what you're saying about the 4 hours. This is based on their industry and the decisions they make based on what occurs and what they expect as reasonable times and safety. So it was considered in part of their investigation.
Kind of to address your question, Trustee Kaminsky, I've been doing this long enough that unfortunately, or fortunately, as the case may be, I've got some experience with these types of incidents. The unfortunate part is that when you have water main breaks, sometimes you aren't able to find the shutoff that shuts that leak off. Sometimes it's, you hey, this is where it is. You go, you turn the knob, and it's still flowing out because it's just after the break or before the break. Unfortunately, these are all things that are underground. You can't see precisely where it is, and it does, unfortunately, sometimes take time to identify the correct valve that you need to turn off to solve the problem. So,
Multiple valves.
Trustee Zabel.
Just to get it moving now, to make the motion that we follow the insurance company recommendation to deny.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Just so you know, ma'am, this is a normal process for us. It's not that we don't feel the pain or that we're not sympathetic to your condition. I am. If it would happen to me, I would feel as bad as you do right now. What I can suggest is that you can talk to the village administrator and he can help you on some, maybe on the insurance side, and there's also a couple of other avenues that you can take. But we start the process going with this. This is just a normal procedure. It's not personal. But there are some avenues that you can discuss. You can call me or the village administrator and we can help you with that. So please take advantage of that.
You have your cards with your phone numbers on?
I absolutely do.
Because believe you me, we need help. He hasn't even been able to go down in the basement.
So, again, don't take this personally. This is an action that is normal and it's a normal process, but we'll see what we can still do to help you with your plight.
Yeah, because, it wouldn't have happened except for the water main break. Right?
Further discussion. I'm gonna abstain from that. Further discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? One opposed? One opposed. Please pursue those avenues, ma'am. Thank you for coming. You know where I am. You know where I am.
Any Tuesday night here in the village.
Thank you for coming and thank you for staying with us. Back to the agenda. New business. Item B, Walter Wolf,